one woman was trying to get pregnant, and after the session, within like 4 weeks or 3 weeks, she reached out to me and said, "I'm pregnant."
As you already mentioned, that the breath is the thread which connects the soul to the body. As soon as we stop breathing, the soul comes out of the body and the body is then dead.
So now, when you allow those to happen, basically what you're doing is you're engaging all of your senses to make that the truth. And what is the densest part in our life? It's our body. That takes the maximum amount of time to shift. So now, if you can feel it there, if you can feel it in the cells, you can sense it, you can bring that visual into every pore, every muscle, every tissue of the body, then you are basically generating cells for the next cycle, which will have that new signal. And that's how the manifestation even happens.
I heard somewhere that sitting is the new smoking, that if we sit in one place without movement, it does do more damage to a body than smoking.
And I always say this to all my students, clients, that if you want to see a shift in the outside environment, you have to start doing something differently. If you keep doing the same things, the consequence will be the same. So if you want a different consequence, then do something different.
Yes. Yes. Can we say that when we want to see a shift in our life, it is very important to make a shift in the body, the way the body vibrates, the way the body moves. A warm welcome to Astha to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manjari, for having me. Hi, everyone.
And Astha is a choreographer and a certified therapist. And today we are going to understand from Astha movement through healing. But before we do that, let's hear directly from Astha how her healing journey started.
Well, my healing journey actually started when I was, I think, 19 years old. I still remember my dance teacher, who I used to learn from at that time, had attended hypnotherapy classes, and then she would come and talk to us about it. And it really, really fascinated me. And to be very honest, my entry into this subcognitive healing realm was out of sheer curiosity. I just wanted to, because I've always had questions about human behavior, why people are a certain way, why even after understanding things we're not able to break out of patterns and stuff like that. And so I think intrigue got me into hypnotherapy first, and then there was just no looking back because a lot of questions started getting answered. And then I kept going deeper. So I got into angel card reading, connecting to guardian angels with Doreen Virtue. I did radical healing with Omnipresence Academy of Life, Atman Parmar. I'm a facilitator and a mentor there. I also did NLP. Then I got into and through all of this, to be very honest, I was always moving. I'm a dancer, choreographer, and that was with me all throughout. But the worlds were always quite separate. So I would dance, and then there was healing. To be very honest, like the two zones were two very different asthas. Like my relationship with healing was beautiful, and my relationship with dance was almost toxic at one point. And then I was like, this can't happen. Like, it can't be so different, because if it's things that you love doing, and if it's your passion, and when you're in the dance, it gives you so much joy, then how is it that around it is so much toxicity? And then that's when I started combining the both. And that's where the entry of movement healing journey started for me. And I realized that even though our mind can still make up stories, our body always gives us extremely accurate feedback, and it's always talking to us. And dance, movement, music, simple repetitive movements are great ways of tapping into cellular memories that you may have hidden. And even though you may have mind based in your cognitive space, you'll be like, haha, I've dealt with it. but the body has still not dealt with it. So that bridge was what actually started opening up a whole new space. And then using radical, using the chakra knowledge, I started using movement healing as a modality as well. So that's been my journey, and I always do believe there is always more to learn, there's always more to discover. So I'm a student for life always, and yeah, that's roughly how my journey has been with healing.
So, Asta, you beautifully said that our body never lies. Yeah. Our mind can play games, but our body never lies. Now, for a person, now for me, myself, for example, if I am confused in certain aspect and I want to ask my body, is there a technique or is there a way in which I can tap into that knowing of the body to get answers or to clear the confusion?
So Manjari, while yes, you can, it takes time to get there. I would suggest that first one has to start even connecting to the body, just simply connecting with no like agenda. You know, like how often we sit with our loved ones, we sit and watch a show, but how often do we just sit with ourselves and talk to our body? You know, like saying, asking simple things like, how are you feeling today? What do you feel like doing today? What do you feel like eating today? What color do you feel like wearing today? Simple. I know these sound like very stupid questions and so simple, but this is how the body talks to us. Like if I've woken up tired, we just push through and carry on with the day. We don't even listen to the body for a moment that, excuse me, why are you tired today? Like, did something happen? Did I sleep with a certain mindset? Did I read a news that actually triggered me and I've just actually kept, I think it first starts with, starting to connect to the body. And that can happen through simple ways like having a cognitive conversation like you do. I know it sounds a bit wacko, but it really helps. Breath work really helps to help you connect to the body. Then you get into this space of like, we have these techniques that we do that when you feel good about something, how does the body respond? And then when you feel bad about something, how does the body respond? Now you've understood how the body responds. So now you put any decision through that filter. And if the body responds through the good filter, you know that it's something that your higher consciousness or your subconscious is in sync with. And if it's responding in a slightly like the negative filter per se, then maybe there is something that needs work before you maybe go ahead and do that. So that'll come later. I think first it's about all of us just learning to connect with the body itself. So yeah.
Yeah, as you already mentioned, the breath is the thread which connects the soul to the body. As soon as we stop breathing, the soul comes out of the body and the body is then dead. So the breath work which connects the soul to the body is very important to have that body consciousness to actually work with the body, to heal the body. Yeah. So how do we actually, because I have been your student as well in dance. But we dance because we want to learn some dance groups, yeah, some form and all. But how does we dance or we make the body movement for healing?
So Manjari, like I said, so dance in itself is actually quite like therapeutic. Even if you're learning a form, even if you're like going to like learn steps on a choreography or like doing a particular dance form. Now why is that? Because when you are in that dance space, you are fully present, and that itself helps you like come into the here and now. You are integrated, you are whole and complete. Second, we all know that dance helps us secrete the happy hormones. So it's a mix of endorphins and dopamine that happens. So that happens in any exercise class, any dance class, and so on and so forth. The music adds to it because a lot of us have associations with music, with songs, with certain instruments playing without even realizing they are hitting different chakras. So even if you enter like a normal dance class, it's great for healing. I've had students come into my belly dance class with no healing I do per se, but I know that irregular period cycles have become regular. People with cysts, the cysts have disappeared. So that's the power and magic of movement anyway. Movement for healing specifically, what makes it slightly different is the intent. So a lot of us get pressurized while learning steps, like, so when we are memorizing, when we're doing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, the mind is also constantly chattering to us. Oh no, after this it is this. Oh shit, I forgot. And so that sometimes takes people into almost like a little bit of a traumatic space, because they're like, oh no, I'm not good enough, and things like that. So hence there are classes of movement designed for healing. What is different in them is, necessarily no steps are taught. You listen to your body intelligence, how it's feeling, you move from there. Every session could be a different intent you are tapping into. So the intent setting is very important in a movement healing session, like whether we're doing childhood based things, whether we're doing 5 elements, whether we're doing chakras, whether we're doing newness, putting ourselves into a discomfort zone, whether we're doing body syndromes. So the intent set for a movement healing class is slightly different. It is so that you can maybe connect deeper to yourself, figure out if something was stored. Can it be rearranged? Can it shift a little bit? Can some clarity emerge? So those are like the benefits that come through from a movement healing class. And it is a combination of repetitive movements, different kinds of music, a lot of breath work, some activities that get you into that space, and meditation. So that's how I combine the session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And also, I heard somewhere that sitting is the new smoking. That if we sit in one place without movement, it does do more damage to a body than smoking. So constant movement, whether it be walking, standing, dancing, it is very therapeutic for the body. And and also, does dancing also helps us to bring our, you spoke about awareness of the body, talking to the body. So does dancing also brings our attention to the body? Because if I'm dancing, I'm working with the body. So does it also bring my attention inside the body? Otherwise, my mind is just here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's up to the teacher how she guides you or how he guides you, and through that guidance, you can start focusing on the smaller muscles, what is moving, what is not, what feels heavy, what feels open, and then of course you direct your students in a way that they don't get self-critical about that. There are ways around it. Now, if a person is more physical, they only want to be in the body, then you give them repetitive physical movements to start opening out those aspects. If the person is a little open to, say, affirmations, statements, breath work as well, you combine that, and in all of that, the body responds. So there are different entry points you can have, but definitely movement is something that will give you so many ahas about the body. And I always say that our body is capable of so much more than we give it credit for. It's capable of miracles. Its intelligence is beautiful. We just don't let it emerge, the body intelligence, because our mind intelligence is always preceding, which is okay, which is great as well. But it's important that one can tap into that side as well, because, like I said, the body doesn't lie. So yeah.
And I have also heard that what you can feel in your body, you can actually manifest. So if I can feel in my body that I'm a very good dancer, so I can actually become. So it can be true for anything. Like if I can actually feel it in the cells of the body that I am this, then I actually manifest and attract that particular thing or that particular situation in my life. How does that happen?
See, now that's almost like the technique of visualization. So I think we all know that visualization is a technique that straight away goes into our subconscious space. There is no filter, visuals go in. And while you're visualizing, there is a sense of feeling, the kinesiology, or the so the claircognizance and the clairsentience that also kicks in along with the visualization. So now, when you allow those to happen, basically what you're doing is you're engaging all of your senses to make that the truth. And what is the densest part in our life? It's our body. That takes the maximum amount of time to shift. So now, if you can feel it there, if you can feel it in the cells, you can sense it, you can bring that visual into every pore, every muscle, every tissue of the body, then you are basically generating cells for the next cycle which will have that new signal. And that's how the manifestation even happens. Having said that, any body related manifestation, at least, like, I mean, if you bring about a ship, does take about 90 days because the cells need to fully regenerate. But yes, if you can feel the emotions and all of those in the body, they are a lot more quicker to manifest in your outside environment and within yourself. You'll start seeing small changes for sure. So yeah.
And when we, so can we say that when we want to see a shift in our life, it is very important to make a shift in the body, the way the body vibrates, the way the body moves. Yeah. Can we say
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. The way the body vibrates, the way the body moves, the way the body feels. And I always say this to all my students, clients, that if you want to see a shift in the outside environment, you have to start doing something differently. If you keep doing the same things, the consequence will be the same. So if you want a different consequence, then do something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, and there's lot of studies which is going on in somatic movement. How is that somatic movement similar or different with healing, or is it the same, healing through movement?
Yeah, it is very similar. Again, like somatic movers also base their practices on, like, you know, how like maybe the spine is moving a certain way. How does it feel to walk one foot? So there is a lot of body awareness that comes through somatic practices as well, and that's beautiful. I think the only thing that makes it slightly different is that people who do movement therapy are also looking to maybe heal, like the intent is more direct, that okay, because I'm also a healer, I'm also a therapist, even if you go into your childhood or your inner child space, I can help you with it, like there and then. Whereas somatic practices, at least to my knowledge, I could be limited also, they don't really focus on fixing, like, so to say, that oh, I have to find a solution. They let you feel, and through the feeling itself, a transformation may happen.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we all know that more than 90% of the diseases are psychosomatic. So while the brain processes it, the body stores all the emotions, both the negative and the positive. So then can we say that doing the movement through dance or any other movement, it does have the power to release and to process the stored negative emotions of the past?
Yeah, because see, any sort of a disease at a psychosomatic level is basically energy getting stuck. It's not moving. And when energy is not flowing, it sort of becomes disease, it becomes stagnated. And everything that you're doing is basically for the energy to start flowing, right? Whether you do pranic, whether you do chakra healing, whether you do hypno, it's all that. So when the body starts to move, you're actually physically also churning that energy center. And if you just focus, it's like, you know, it's like a child. You give it attention and you give it its due like position and importance, and the body really does respond. That is the beauty.
Yeah.
Most of the time it just comes out of neglect, because, you know, we're not even, like, we're so busy shoving things under the carpet because of our busy schedule and or timetables and all those things. And all it takes is just awareness of breath and repetitive movements in that space, and the energy can start flowing. And then if you keep doing it that repetitively, then whatever disease or unease you have will also begin to become much more comfortable for you. Yeah.
And how helpful is this healing through movement for mental illness and clinical depression? Because in clinical depression, people don't have the willpower to actually do anything, and actually cognitive therapy doesn't work on them because they literally can't hear and see anything. So how the movement helps in the mental diseases or mental well-being of a person?
So Manjari, to be very honest, when it comes to people with clinical depression, I don't enter the space with an intention of healing or fixing. I simply make them go through a session where there is a lot of happiness through movement, there is joy, there is freedom, they're able to connect to the child in them, and that, like maybe 40 minutes or 45 minutes of happiness or the contentment and the liberation they get, keeps sending new neuropathways and signals into their space. So that's where I would start. I would not prematurely, claim to like heal or anything of that sort immediately. First, I would get them into that space to recognize that that feeling is even possible. When that happens, they connect to that more and more. Then we go deeper a little bit from there. When it comes to mental illnesses, again, things like schizophrenia and all, body is great because actually you're grounding people, you're getting them to the present moment. Wandering in the mind space is what is like the problem, right? So the ground, I focus a lot more on grounding, finding joy in the ground reality, finding joy through the body, because all of that will somewhere start helping them stay more present. And I always believe that if you're more present, you have more than enough tools to handle and tackle anything. So that's primarily how I would use movement or dance in this case.
So, Asa, can you suggest some simple everyday movements that people can incorporate into their routines to promote healing on an everyday basis, like simple techniques, really? Because we do face a lot of stress on an everyday basis, like like maybe a little bit of stress just to record this podcast and to edit it. So there's very minor stresses are there on an everyday basis, and but if we can release and process it on a everyday basis, so it is very therapeutic for a person. Yeah. So to get started, or can you just recommend some simple one? You said that freehand dancing, just play the nice music, tap to your body, and the second you said is repetitive movement. So what kind of repetitive? Like if I'm drinking a water, just this kind, or just stand up and sit down, just stand up and sit down, this kind.
So like things like, so repetitive movements, one thing that really helps is like shaking. So you stand in place and just shake, 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 shake. If you can do that for 5 minutes and then just raise your hands up and just stay there, you'll feel this strange lightness come into your space. So those are things you can do. Then I really feel that the spine is a great, like we store so much. So spinal movements, whether it's, making scoops like this, whether it's just sideways waves from one side to the other side, circling the spine forward and back. So arms, spine, shaking, and then just like allowing yourself to go close to the floor. Whether if you're comfortable lying down, that's the best. Just lie on the floor and watch your breath or breathe while lying on the floor. Like place your hands on your abdomen and just feel the breath going in and out. Maybe 21 rounds of that. Just these 4 things combined. If you can like do that, it'll take us like maybe 5 to 7 minutes to do this. You will be so much more centered in the body through the day. The energy levels, the immunity, the focus. It's just, it's not only when things go wrong. This is just something we do so that we can keep tapping into our potential.
Yeah. And very beautifully, because I'm a yoga practitioner, you said that to lie down, because after I have actually made that movement to settle, to absorb that energetic movement, that energy, that healing thing in the body, it's very important to lie down, rest the body, and to take that breath, the breath which brings us to the present and connects the soul to the body. Yeah.
Yes.
It's an entire circle. Maybe it just takes few minutes every day, but it can have a very long impact.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Asa, you mentioned that for belly dancing, people heal their PCOD because maybe belly dancing requires a lot of movement around the sacral area. So any other astonishing healing you have experienced with your clients, with your students through movement therapy, which you would like to share with us?
I've had like beautiful miracles. Like I was doing a womb journey and I was taking people into that space, and one woman was trying to get pregnant, and after the session, within like 4 weeks or 3 weeks, she reached out to me and said, "I'm pregnant." So like there are these small things that happen through these sessions. I have had like people get clarity around their partner, their marriages, understanding what is going off, their repetitive patterns, just through certain repetitive things that they were doing in the body, and I just bring their attention to that and what it could mean, and that just clears out things for them as to what they do in relationships and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just these small ahas keep happening. Period cycles, conceptions, cysts. I've had, and of course, like this whole thing of people who come in are so inhibited, and then when they go out, they're completely like empowered. I see my students who've been with me for 1-2 years, and how they step in and how they are today is just something very, very beautiful to see the transformation. So yeah.
But how can individuals with physical limitations or chronic pain safely engage in a movement for healing?
Well, there are variations we give. There are simpler techniques. There are seated exercises one can do as well. You don't have to shake the whole body. You can just do it from the hands. And depending on what each one's requirement is, we design it or give them variations for that. So, it is very possible. They may not be able to do everything, but most of it is possible to do with different kinds of variations in sessions. That's one issue. Never been.
Asta, in your experience, what are some common barriers people face when starting a movement-based healing process?
I think most of the times it's inhibition. People just have notions that they have to look good while dancing. They have to look a certain way. Dance has to look beautiful and aesthetic. Well, no, dance is a language. It's an expression. It can be raw. It can be as ugly as you would like it, and it can be stupid. It can be, and that thing I think has been my biggest barrier. When I help people break out of that, what they dive into is beautiful. So just these notions with movement, and already a lot of people have like issues with their body, like they don't like it, or they don't like the way they look, or whatever shape sizes. So that becomes another barrier, because then they also judge themselves when they are moving. So I think these are major ones. And then of course this whole thing of that people think that movement and healing is separate, which I also did for the longest time. And so then people who come to dance, they only come to dance for learning, and then people who come for healing, they only come for healing. So that bifurcation happens, but slowly I feel that is reducing, though. That there are enough overlaps happening now.
So how do you deal with it? Because many people say, "Oh, I have two left feet and I can't dance. Oh, I'm too fat, or I have never danced in my life. How can I dance?" So,
I do different techniques, like I'll blindfold them, I'll dim the lights, I'll make them look away from the mirror, make them do some simple partner work, looking into each other. So all those things take their attention away from like how the body is looking, and they just get more engaged in the activity of it. So there are ways around that. So
this body movement also helps in self-expression. Like a lot of people also struggle with self-expression. Like I cannot express myself at the right time. So does it also helps in self-expression, because dance is also a type of expressing? So does it also helps in verbal expression?
It does. Dance is an expression of life. Of course, it helps you express yourself. I mean, there are enough cases where when you started dancing, the confidence with which people express themselves has improved. The confidence with which people listen to other people has gone up also. So I don't think it's just about like expression. It's about understanding, expression, communication, perception. All of that improves as you are moving, because that's actually all the things that you're doing while dancing. You're tapping into a higher space and downloading that and producing that through the body. That itself is an expression. So
So any anything from your side for all the people in the audience who are very self-conscious to dance in front of people? Because many people are in that category. I was also in that, but not anymore. So any tips or tricks for those people who feels very inhibited to start dancing in front of people or to make any kind of movement?
Yeah, so yeah, sorry, go for it.
Also, because as a child, I remember that I was always corrected that I have to sit a certain way, I have to stand a certain way, even by teachers and parents at home. So it also built up the inhibitions. Actually, I felt so, and it did take me a lot of time to come out of it. So any wisdom from your side, from an expert, for all the people in the audience who feel inhibited to move?
I mean, see, I would just say start taking baby steps. You know, we want to be perfect before we start anything, but perfection is such an illusion. No one feels perfect. It's all a work in progress all the time. So why are we whatever we are fearing will anyway happen. So might as well dance, might as well move, and let it happen if it's happening anyway. So it's what is the purpose of holding yourself? You know, mostly we hold ourselves back because we're like, oh, log kya kahenge. But the fact of the matter is, जिनको कहना है वो तो वैसे भी कह रहे हैं चाहे तुम डांस करते हो कि नहीं. So, so might as well, like, you know, let yourself at least feel the freedom. Let yourself feel the joy that happens when you just like let yourself go and move, put on music, and start in your bedroom. If you're so scared of like doing it around people, do it in your own space first. Like dance on top of the bed, in your drawing room, in your shower, and then slowly, you know, do it in gatherings, smaller gatherings. Come for like a movement healing class where, you know, people are anyway half the times they're in their space, people are blindfolded, no one's really looking at anyone. So those are small ways. Take those steps towards because I always feel that while comfort zone is our home, that's where we feel safe, we feel loved. Miracles happen in the uncomfortable. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I hope you motivate a lot of people with this line. It is really a very beautiful line, very well said, Astha, that miracles happen outside the comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So we should be ready for miracles by coming out of the comfort zone. And what better way to come out of the comfort zone than to just dance freely?
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, I resonate a lot with what you said, because even in my case, I first started with dancing by myself in my room to come out of that inhibition. And I did it every day for half an hour. And then slowly I started to feel comfortable.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. That's so lovely.
And also in my case, as you mentioned about body talk, I would like talk to the body, because I will feel very uncomfortable, as you said, that it's a very uncomfortable zone to change, because if I have not danced, it's a very uncomfortable zone. And then I would just talk to the body, it's fine, what worse can happen by dancing? Nobody will die. I am not killing anyone, so it is fine.
Yeah.
So at least I am not killing anyone, so it is fun to dance. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so Astha, any concluding remarks or any nuggets from your side for the audience?
No, I mean, I think I said everything. I just dance, let go. Life is too short to keep second guessing whether I am good enough or not. We are all here because we are enough in some way or the other. So just begin.
So just put on your dancing shoes and see where it takes you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Many thanks, Astha, for coming today, taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing your wisdom and skills with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manjari, for having me. This is lovely what you're doing. Thank you.
Namaste.